We're going to go on to our next speaker now. This is Louise Distras from the UK. And Louise Distras is a punk singer from Wakefield, West Yorkshire. When she spoke out and refused to say trans women are women, the music industry turned its back on her, and this is her story. Thank you so much for coming, Louise. I know lots of people have been saying how fantastic it is that you're coming. We're going to get to hear from you, so welcome, and over to you.
I'm an independent singer-songwriter. I'm not very clever, not as clever as the women here today, but I'd like to think I can write a decent tune or two once in a while, and that's my weapon. A little bit about me. I released my first single, The Hand You Hold, on International Women's Day in 2012. Before the lockdowns, I was an internationally touring musician. I've released 2 albums, been in Kerrang, had my songs played on Radio 1, blah, blah, blah. And it's been a pretty nasty past 12 months for me since the music industry turned its back on me because I stated biological fact. And but my attitude is still the same now as what it's always been, which is here's me, here's my music. If you don't like it, you can naff off. And I think that it's a good thing to be an individual and do your own thing, not follow the herd mentality. So to tell my story properly, I need to go back to the beginning really and talk a little bit about what it was like for me growing up as a young woman in Wakefield, because from a very young age, you know, I was very aware that I was being preyed upon, and I felt very unsafe in myself. So when I was 16, I ran away from home, and I've spent some time in women's shelters and found myself in a lot of dangerous situations with dangerous blokes who took advantage of me. And looking back, I can see that it was these traumatic experiences that left certain wounds and vulnerabilities on me that left me wide open to being exploited by the predators and pimps of the music industry later down the line. So it's these experiences, these early experiences that I had, which are at the core of me, and this is the reason why I care so much about freedom of speech and defending my hard-won rights as a woman in a male-dominated music industry. It's well known that the music industry is very misogynistic, and I'm sure that a lot of women would say that the music industry is also well overdue its own Me Too moment. Part of my story is that I spent almost 10 years working with a man who identified as a record producer, and you know, he controlled every aspect of my life, isolated me from my friends and family. It was like being in a cult. And when I tried to walk away from this guy, he blocked the completion of the release of my new album, Beauty After Bruises, and, you know, put rumors around the industry that I was a drug addict and stealing money from my fans, and along with all the usual crazy making problematic tropes. And this is what led to what I would call my first cancellation, but in comparison to what I'm experiencing now, I would call it more like a soft cancellation or a mini cancellation. So when the lockdowns hit, I saw an opportunity to get to safety and get away from the situation that I was in. And you know, I'm sad to say that my story isn't unique, and I'm not the only woman in the music industry that this has happened to. So that's why I think it's really important to speak about this. In terms of gender ideology, I first started questioning what was happening in winter 2021. My ex guitar player started a relationship with this man in a dress boyfriend, and together they ganged up on me and they accused me of a transphobic hate crime, and they reported me to the police. And I got investigated for a few months, but then it got dropped. And I later discovered that this man in a dress had served time for attempted murder and is also banned from playing women's football. This man in a dress is a musician as well, and he posts a lot of pictures on social media that he makes. It's like AI generated like anime portraits of himself, depicting himself as a little girl, which is just, you know, beyond questionable. And so that's what resulted in me first starting to question this gender ideology. And from there, I discovered women like Kelly J. Keane and the famous artist Birdie Rose, Women's Rights Network, and everything that these women were saying, it just made sense to me, which is that there's only two sexes, mutilating autistic kids is child abuse, and the recognition of biological sex is important to maintaining our hard-won rights as women. And it's not rocket science, is it? It's just reality and common sense. And this is a view that's shared by most people. And also for me as a musician, and a gobshite, I think that when the establishment and the corporations support you, but that means that you are the establishment. So for me, being a TERF is about as punk rock as it gets. I think TERF is totally the new punk. So after taking some time away from the music industry, last year I came back with my new album and all these experiences and this story inside of me, which I've wanted to tell for such a long time. And I did the exact same thing as what I've always done, which is just, sing my songs, speak about my own life and my own music as I see fit. If you don't like it, you can naff off. And it was in May last year when I first expressed my opinions about gender ideology publicly. And pretty much overnight, all the platforms which championed me, they denounced me. I was labelled a right-wing Nazi, a transphobe. I was blacklisted by music journalists who said that I deserved to be thrown out of the music industry. And I started receiving rape and death threats on social media, mostly from anonymous accounts run by what I call these, pro-mutilation activists. Some of them also tracked down my address and turned up at my house as well. So I asked my booking agent at the time, Midnight Mango, that they were booking a tour for me to promote the release of my new album. And I asked them for help to keep me and the women who come to my gigs safe from these activists. And my concerns fell on deaf ears. And I was told, our position as a company is clear. Trans women are women, and if you continue to publicly deny that trans women are women, your position is going to have detrimental effects on your career. To which I responded, well, no, let the audiences decide for themselves who they want to buy tickets to go see. Let the ticket sales do the talking. If I wanted moral guidance, I'd go see a priest, not my booking agent. But again, fell on deaf ears and they stopped booking my shows. So with the music industry turning its back on me, my booking agency not doing their job, radio won't touch me, music journalists won't talk to me anymore, I decided to speak out. And alongside 5 other women, I was interviewed by the Daily Mail about my experiences. And then Billy Bragg waded in to give me some fashion advice on Twitter, which, let's face it, nobody wants to hear that. And it all went downhill after that. And so I started promoting my Bandcamp page. And if I don't know if anyone knows what Bandcamp is, but it's like Spotify but for independent musicians. So I put my discography on there and started selling downloads, vinyls, CDs, things like that. And then at the end of October 2023, Bandcamp, they shut down my artist page without notice and my discography disappeared. Along with my income already held on the platform, which is the only remaining income stream I had after being blacklisted from everywhere. So Bandcamp, they kicked me off. They stole my money, basically. I contacted them to find out what had happened, but with them being an international company that operates outside UK jurisdiction, it turned out to be impossible to challenge Bandcamp's decision to deplatform me or even find out why they did it. So Freedom in the Arts, a new organisation founded by Rosie Kay and Denise Farmy, they wrote to Bandcamp and they raised my case online with the Culture Secretary, Lucy Fraser. But this is 5-6 months later now, and we've still had no response. And then since Bandcamp shut down my page, it's been almost impossible to reach the international audience I once did and earn enough income to pay my bills, especially in the cost of living crisis. And, as a self-employed musician, it's been difficult to challenge, these rumours and attempted cancellations and defend myself from the constant attacks on my reputation and livelihood, because, you know, I don't have recourse to a trade union or litigation as somebody would as an employee. So as this was all happening towards the end of last year, you know, my situation was beginning to escalate wildly out of control. And in December, several vexatious reports were filed about me to West Yorkshire Police. And, you know, West Yorkshire Police, they already have got quite a reputation for overstepping the mark when it comes to free speech issues. So just before Christmas, I was arrested. And then when they came for me, I was in the shower, I was washing my hair. And their justification for arresting me was what I said during my appearance on GB News and my speech at the Let Women Speak event in Leeds. And what I said there is only the same as what I'm speaking about here today. So, you know, who knows? I might get another knock on the door. So let's see what happens. So yeah, the Rozzers carted me off down the station. They took my fingerprints, my DNA. I spent 5 hours in custody, and then I was released with no further action to be taken against me because obviously I hadn't committed any crimes. But you know, the manner in which I was arrested and then forced to endure the indignity of getting dressed in front of an officer with a body cam, it's an absolute piss take, and they totally overstepped the mark. And you know, we do have a problem here in the UK, like with situations like this. And this whole saga raises a lot of questions for me about the law around speech becoming increasingly subjective and blurred. And I think it's pretty clear that certain individuals are abusing these systems, which are meant to protect women, in this ongoing attempt to intimidate us and stop us from speaking out. I mean, we've seen a perfect example of that this week on Twitter when Bangladesh Willoughby reported J.K. Rowling to the police. You know, it's absolutely pathetic. So while all this has been going on, I've had to start legal proceedings to try and put a stop to this ongoing campaign of harassment, stalk, and malicious communications. And frustratingly, my lawyers, they've advised me not to speak about my case publicly because these proceedings have been brought about by people personally connected to me. But what I can say is that, you know, I am facing this battle and the prospect of needing to raise funds for my defence because of the legally held views that I express online. And I know that I'm not the only person in this situation either. So now I'm going to trial in April, where I'm going to be engaging in arguments about my personal rights to free speech and express personal opinions in my musical and artistic work. And I have to say that after these past 12 months, I am absolutely exhausted, you know. I didn't ask for this fight. All I wanted to do was just go out there, sing my songs, play my gigs, and safe in the knowledge that I and the women who come to my gigs would be safe. But at the end of the day, you know, speaking my mind publicly is what making music is all about. And I think that freedom of speech and freedom of expression and our hard-won rights as women are something that should be defended at all costs, no matter what ism we're living under, you know. And if we can't defend our, if we don't have freedom of speech, then we can't defend our rights as women, can we? So looking back at the whole kind of picture of what's gone on so far, I think that I was pretty naive to hope that my booking agency or anybody else in the music industry would be willing to assist me in any way. I mean, you know, the booking agency Midnight Mango, for example, they've got an EDI, or is it DEI, EDI department. So, you know, by their own admission, these industry gatekeepers and these music platforms like Bandcamp, you know, they're not neutral in this at all. And it's clear to me from my own personal experience, the way I've been treated, that women musicians, women artists like myself, you know, we're no longer able to talk about our own lives and our own work as women without facing threats to our safety, being called a transphobe and a bigot or a Nazi at every turn. And I think that this is highly reflective of how ideologically captured that the music industry has become now. It's more like a cult, really. And it's not just happening at, like, you know, the Brit Award level. It's happening at a grassroots level to artists like myself, who are not necessarily well known. And it's one of the reasons why you never hear of us, because, you know, this wokery, this cancel culture It's designed to kill art and creative expression at the root. And I believe that to limit speech is to limit thought. To limit thought is to destroy creativity. And in an industry which is supposed to be built on freedom of expression, all that's going to foster is shit music, to be fair. And that's why there's no good music that comes out of work. So but I can count on one hand the number of women musicians who've actually had the courage to speak up about gender ideology without apologizing. I mean, I know a couple of these women are watching this. We've got Thistle, we've got Iwa Juska as well. And over the past 12 months, I have found myself in some very lonely and frightening situations. Much to my dismay, it's been mostly women in the music industry who've targeted me. And this is very disheartening for me because I've had some horrible experiences, and I know from personal experience that about these abuses that are committed by men towards women within my own industry. And it's something that I have a lot to say about. I would love to sit down with these women who target me and ask them, why are you throwing women like me under the bus in order to protect the feelings of violent fetishistic men? Why are you promoting the mutilation of children? It's out there now. It's public knowledge in the WPATH files. It's proven gender medicine is unregulated. It's medical experiments on children and vulnerable adults. We know this is one of the worst medical scandals in history. Why are women in my industry rejecting the evidence of their own eyes and abandoning their hard-won rights in order to have a successful career in an already male-dominated industry? I'm an artist. I'm not a propagandist. This doesn't make any sense to me to deny reality like that. So, but that being said, there's been an awful lot of support for me, but it's come from outside of the music industry. And in a personal way, after having a horrible upbringing and running away from home, it's now at this point in my life, I'm 36 now, 37 in a couple of weeks. And for the first time in my life, I've found some really wonderful, positive, healthy women role models in my life. And I've found a wonderful support network from within our movement. The famous artist Birdie Rose, she did a wonderful talk on here about a year ago. She's been like a rock to me. She's a really good friend of mine. And then another great support to me has been Denise Farmy. Denise won her employment tribunal in June last year around harassment due to her gender critical views. She's been fabulous. She transferred the remaining balance on her crowd justice campaign to my campaign. And it's really all thanks to an angry army of women that I've been able to pick myself up off the floor and start fighting back. And after what's happened over the past 12 months, that's where I'm at now. I'm starting to fight back. I'm getting my mojo back. So, and this time last year, I was completely alone as a musician, but now I'm one of a growing list of artists who are criticizing cancel culture and speaking up about gender ideology. And together we're building a proper counterculture that's coming together, organically. And despite everything that I've experienced over these past few months, I think that as an artist, there's never been a more exciting time to be an artist. And there's so much going on in the world. There's so much to talk about, so much to sing about. Being arrested and fighting this legal battle, it's certainly got in the way of what I'd rather be doing, but it hasn't stopped me from writing new music. I'm writing a new album at the moment. I've been recording some demos this morning. It's because I want to start recording my new album after my trial in April, and I'm performing at a festival in August as well. I'm really looking forward to playing live again, because for me, singing my songs is how I think I can best serve this fight. And I know that for every woman who faces a cancellation or like an attempted cancellation, I know that there's many, many, many more of us that are too scared to speak up for fear of being targeted, fear of emotional and financial ruin. So for me, this makes it even more important for me to not give in to this bullying. And I really want to everybody's support for me by winning my court case, and being able to share the gift of new music, so that I can show that, no woman in the music industry should ever be hounded for stating biological facts. And as I said earlier, you know, speaking my mind is what making music is all about. And I'm an artist. I don't belong in a police station or a courtroom. I belong in a recording studio or on stage. And that's how I can best serve this fight. We all have our own ways and our own, you know, ways of doing this. And I think that that's something, you know, we should to celebrate. Um, so yeah, once the trial's over, I'm really looking forward to concentrating on being a musician again. And really, that's really kind of my story up to this point. And thank you so much for having me in this space and letting me share it with you. I hope this time next year I will have something else to talk about.